May the peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. Today we will explain the basics of Python and how to build a program for Windows using Python and qt5. But first, we will prepare the working environment. First, download Python and install it as I do. I've done it before, I don't have to do it again. Then we download the VS Code and install it as well. I have installed it before as well. Create a new folder, then create a new text file and write these names inside it. These are most of the libraries that we will use now and later. After creating the file, open CMD and type the following command: pip install requirements.text. Then wait for the download to finish. Then open the folder in VS Code. Then go to Add-ons and search for Blackbox AI. It will help you write the code and fix problems. Create a new file as I do and name it as you want, but at the end of the name you must put .py. Well, we will start by knowing what variables are and how to use them. The most important thing you should know is that in Python you should not write the type of the variable before the name of the variable, like other programming languages. The first integer variable is int, and this contains only integers, such as 1, 2, 3, and so on. Note, I will explain everything quickly so that you can just create the application you want. This is a request from Black Lotus AI users. That's why I won't delve into the explanation. In general, variables, such as currency, change their value as you want and only maintain a certain value. The most important types of variables are integer numbers, text, a list of values, decimal numbers, fractions, and real values such as true and false. I will write them for you and their values so that you can understand better. If you don't understand something, message me on Discord. As you can see now, the first variable, vnumber, is an integer of type int, and the second variable is of float type. The third variable is an integer value of type bool. The vstring value is a text value of type string, and these tags must be placed in order for it to be defined as text. The first list contains many values and can contain values of different types. The second list, vlistmap, contains a list with a variable inside it that I use a lot, which is JSON, and this is used in a lot of things, which I will not go into detail now. And the last variable is of type null or none, which is a value that exists but has no value. It can be used, for example, to define a variable and give it the value of none, and then give the variable the value you want later. Now we will learn the most important thing, and more. Something commonly used is conditional statements using if, elif, else. It is written in this way, and in Python you must write it with the same starting space. When creating a conditional statement or function, in other words, when writing a colon, you must leave a space after it at the beginning of the line, and every line below it that you want to be executed within the function or condition must be the same. If you want the space to go outside the condition, write it at the beginning of the line. Inside the brackets we write our condition. If it is met, what is inside the condition will be executed, and in our example, the word true will be printed. If it is true, the word false will be printed if it is not true. For example, 1 equals 1. If 1 equals 1, true will be printed. Otherwise, false will be printed. If you want to compare two values, you use want, and if you want an identifier, if the value is not equal to the other, we use. If you want to know whether the first value is greater than the second value, we use. And if you want to know whether the value of the first variable is greater than or equal to the second variable, we write keybord, and is used to add another condition, but then both conditions must be met. But when using or, it is sufficient to fulfill only one condition. If the first condition is not met, the next condition is checked. Now we will move on to iteration using for repetition in general, and repetition of the same steps within a certain number. And the for iteration is written like this. Range expresses the number of cycles or repetitions. The numbers start from 0, but +1 can be added to the variable, and it will start from 1. Or you can specify the starting value within the range. Len gives you the number of list items. In this way, it will print all the names inside the listmap variable. Now, we will move to iteration using while, for and, while generally repeat until the set condition is met. The while loop is written like this. The iteration will continue until the value of x pymem 6. Now we will move to the functions or tasks. Functions in general are like a cigarette. You put whatever you want inside it and everything is done when you use fire to light it. And it is written in this way. We first write def, then the name of the function, for example start, then the parentheses, char, then the colon. Then you put all the codes you want inside it, and you must leave some space at the beginning of the line, but if you are working on versus code, it will do that automatically. Well, if you run the program now, the hello world print command will not be executed because we did not light the cigarette. The function has not even been invoked, the codes inside are executed. Now we will call it by writing the name of the function and then the parentheses. If you do not write the parentheses, it will not work. In this way, we lit the cigarette. With this, the way we can pass data to the function is by creating a variable inside the parentheses, and when called, we enter the value of the variable. You can certainly call the function more than once and enter a different value for the variable. I know, of course, that if this is your first experience with programming languages, of course, in your time now, you do not understand anything, and you are trying to understand which cigarette to light. Concentrate with me and try these codes. You have to understand more, and the information is proven because what is coming is more difficult. As well, and you will use it in all your programs, which is to call up a library, such as the keyboard and mouse, to control the mouse and keyboard. First, write import, then the name of the library. We will know what each library does later. Okay, we will do the printing command here, and by the way, we will write print, so that we can print anything you want inside the console. We will not pause the program for 2 seconds. The program will wait for 2 seconds and then execute the rest of the codes. Well, the keyboard has many functions, the most important of which is pressing on key or writing text. But now I'm interested in the hotkey. Keybord.add hotkey is written, and between the parentheses the value of 2 variables is entered. The first is the key on which the function will be executed when pressed. The second is the function that you want to call when the key is pressed. We write lambda so that the code is not executed until it is pressed. If you do not write it, the code will be executed. When running, this will be a problem, so it must be added. as you can see, because when I press Ctrl+, the function is called and the print command is executed. We previously learned the iteration loop using for, but the iteration using for will wait for the rest of the codes until the repetition ends, and this is a very bad thing if you are dealing with an application that has an interactive interface, as we will build at the end of the video. For this, I use the thread to create a loop. You can put for inside it, or you can just create a loop. Using thread only, this way, you type threading.thread. Then inside the brackets, enter the value of the variable name, and this will be the name of the thread. Then write the name of the function that you want to run to create an iteration loop. We will enter the name of the function that we are inside. Then we write the variables for the function inside the parentheses. As you can see now, you will be summoned the function to infinity. Now we do not want to create a loop. Repeatedly, we will create another function that will just create a thread and run it. Now we will create a function that returns a value. For example, we will add the two variables and return the result. Let's run the program. To print the value of a variable and text together, we write the letter F, then we write this sign, then the text you want, then we write the bracket, durus, and write. It contains the name of the variable. Now we will move to something more complex, which is the class, such as the three-dimensional object that you give to the three-dimensional printer, so that it prints it. And every time you can change its properties without affecting the other object, you can print it in different colors and different sizes. This is what class looks like in general. The class contains a set of variables and functions, so let us assume that you have many of players. You can create a class with player characteristics and define them as variables at the beginning. The class and all the functions inside the class will be able to access this variable and use it. The other difference between the class and the function is that the class retains the value, the variables inside it, and when it is called, a new copy of this class is created and not the basic class is used. But the function uses the basic function, and upon completion all the function data is erased. To create a class, we write at the beginning of the line class, then the name of the class, then the colon. Then we write the start function, which gives the variables their values when calling the class. And it is written like this: def na my san minute team sabi self. First variable, second variable if you want. Then super, init. Then we initialize the variables and save them inside the function via self.nameName and so on, until you give the name value to this class via the start variable, and it will be kept until the program is finished. We will create a function that prints the value of the name and age. Now we create a variable and give it the value of the class we created and give it the value of the variable name and age. Now we call the print function from within the class and see what happens. If we change the order, the value of the name and age of the first player will remain different from the value of the name and age of the second player. And this is what the class does. You can also type and access the value of the name variable and modify it. Now I will quickly tell you about another library, which is the mouse library. It allows you to control the mouse by changing the position of the cursor or the pressure. You can choose either the right or left button. Now in this path you will find the software designer, and his name is Designer, and if you follow the steps from the beginning you will find him in this folder. If you do not find it in this folder, open CMD and type the following command: pip install qt5 designer. Run the program and let's start designing our first program. Well, this is the main interface of our application. I don't need this. Let's delete it. On the left you will find a list of items that can be used. Each item has its own characteristics. We will learn about the most important items together. Well, push button is a button that executes specific code when pressed. Radio button is a button but it is used in 2 or more ways when you want the user to select one of 2 options, and it is not possible to choose both. Its common use is to determine the gender, male or female. Then comes checkbox, which is like radio, but allows you to choose more than one option. We also have a scroll area, and this gives you a space that you can decode using scroll. To view the program's appearance, click on Form, then Preview. We also have a tab widget that allows you to create an infinite number of pages, and each page has its own components. Each tab also has a name, and when you click on it, the contents of the page are displayed. We also have a stacked widget, which is like a tab widget. But the difference is that you can change the pages of the code and there is no name for each page. Our spin box is just a writing field that accepts numbers only, unlike TextEdit, which accepts all letters and numbers. Okay, let's add some colors and buttons to complete our first application and test it. Let's change the name of the button so that the process of writing the code will be easier for us. Well, let's specify the maximum size to which the program can be increased. Now let's change the background color. To add a background image or any other element, click on Add RSource. Then we click on the pen, and then the Create a New File icon. Then we write the name of the image file we want. Then we select the folder in which we want to save the image file. We will need it later, then we press Save. Click on the Create File or Path icon. Then we write the name we want. Then we click on the Add File icon and choose the image we want. The image can be changed from background to border until the image takes the size of the application. But this way the image will be added to everything, and this is something I do not want. We will move it from here to the central widget, but this is also a bad option, and we will know later why. This is a bad choice. We are now changing the color of the menu bar text and background. Now we will add a label so that we can change it to the name of the player or anything else that we will use later to display the output of the functions. As you can see this problem, I told you that placing the image as a background in this way is considered a bad thing. To solve this problem, we add a frame and place the image in it as a background. Then we change the frame size to the program size. Then we send the frame to the background. Then we move the label using the directional buttons on the keyboard so that it does not take on the properties of the frame. Now we save the design so that we can modify it later. Now we convert the design into code by clicking on Form and then View Python code. Then we copy or save the code. In my case, I copied and pasted it into the test file for this video. Now there are adjustments that you must make before you run the program for the first time. First, we will change all of this recovery. We will change it from pyside2 to pyqt5. The variable name in the UI main window class was changed from object to Q main window. Then we write the initialization or starting function as we knew before for the class. We will now call some of the libraries that we will use. This is the name of the program. Now, we write code to link the code to the interface it created. We create a function to close. It will be in this form, and self-expresses this class. Now we write the operating code, and it will say print the name, change the text in LBL name to the value of the function's name variable. Now we are writing the stop code, and I am sorry if I do not explain everything in detail, but I will try to explain everything. Now we link the exit function to the exit button. Using the following command, self-btn exit.triggered.connect, then the parentheses, then the function name. We repeat the code until we connect the on and off. Now the last thing before starting is to convert the image file from a .qrc file to a Python file. To do this, we go to this path. We run cmd in this path and write the following command, and it will convert the file from .qrc to Python. I will leave this code for you in the comments and on GitHub. We move the file to the folder of our program and then run the program. Their error. I forgot to call the setUI function in the initialization function. Well, there is an error in the code for pressing the button. I wrote toggled instead of triggered. I will change it, and the code will work without problems. Well, everything works fine. Now we will cover some advanced things, such as how to read all the names of running applications and store only the names of the application or game that we want, then change some of the values of this game or program. Note, I will do this for educational purposes only. We will create a new function that will save all the names of the programs that are running now, and then we will save only the ones we want. We will first call the libraries we need. Psutil allows you to know the names of all the applications that are running now. Pymem is responsible for changing the values of the application and modifying it. Please ask the owner of the game or program you want to modify for permission to do so as not to expose yourself to legal liability. Now we create variables with which we will take the data we need to modify the values of the game or other program. Damn, I wrote the name of the office wrong. Let's change it first. Well, this code will store all the program names and ID in the process list variable. Then we save only the game program data that we want inside the self.conquer process variable. Then we create a loop that is as large as the number of elements in the self.conquer process variable. Then we prepare the game we want to modify using pymem ID. We configure the main title of the game using the following code: module, from name, handle.process, handle, name, lp base of dl. Then we store everything in its own variable. We are now ready to modify the data. You can use this method with any program or game you want, but I do not recommend it. Do not modify something that you do not own or create cheating programs, because this is really bad. I am just teaching you this for the sake of knowledge only, and there are many games and programs that allow modifications to it. Let's try our code. Of course, I don't have any game that runs under the name Conquer, so it will change the name top to an empty list. I have uploaded all the codes to GitHub. You can download the full code now. If you followed the steps from the beginning, you are now ready to convert your code into an .exe program. Or if this is your first video here, just open CMD and type this command pip install pyinstaller auto-py-to-exe. Then go to this path and run this file. Okay, now choose your code file. Choose the same thing I do. Now choose the program icon. Enter the program name. Choose where to save the program. Save the settings by pressing Export. Click convert.py to.exe to create the program, then wait a little. Okay, this is our program, let's run it. Thank you for your continued support for us and your understanding of the reason for closing all Black Lotus programs. See you when I see you.